You may not believe it, but until 1827, you could shoot a man if he's on your land poaching, and you could also set a trap, massive man trap, which would crush his thighs. And that was until a bill was passed, and it was known as the Engines of Destruction Bill, the engines of destruction calculated to destroy life. And that's not all that long ago. My grandfather wouldn't have been alive then, but his father would have been. You know, it's that near. We'll have a look at a few traps. Came all shapes and sizes. That, believe it or not, was a fox trap. It's a bit over the top, but then they were trying to catch his head and shoulders instead of just a foot. Two massive springs. This is a safety device. You could lock it until you completed everything, got it set in the right place. And the bait there should be 6 hooks on here. And the bait would be tied to those hooks. So when it was touched, that would release these springs, which are locked now, and the 2 jaws would come over. Well, they're strong springs. It would be a terrific grip on them. That's a fair sized trap. That was for otters. They would have caught all of the otters and kingfishers on the fishing rivers. That was one of the smallest traps in this country at the time, anyhow. And that was a little pole trap for kingfishers. They would set that on a pole in or near the river. Because if you ever see a photograph or painting of a kingfisher, they're usually they'd like to stand on a pole so they could see all around them. And that's a little pole trap. And the jaws opened and just trapped it. I've got a couple of traps off the wall to look at in a bit more detail. This one is a mole trap. Which reminds me of a little airplane, biplane. When it's set, that ring is in that position. And it's not easy to set, but we can do it. So the whole trap is fixed in the mole run, which means when the mole comes along the run and touches that little trigger, that top plate is forced down, squeezes him. I don't know how popular it was. I think it would have been a bit too difficult to set on a cold, frosty morning when you... Yes, all right. This one is a rabbit trap. It looks very elaborate for a rabbit trap. This is a spring, a very strong spring, and when the trap is set, it comes back in that position. I'm not going to set it. It's quite old and it could easily snap. But if you imagine that arm is brought over so that it lies against that upright. And when it does, you can then place that over the top of it and secure it. There's a string across there attached to that little bit, and when that's pulled in that position, that slides up and holds the arm down. This is set in a run, just about the right height. The rabbit touches that. It pulls this arm across, that lowers that bit. This flies up and releases that arm, which comes down with a terrific force. And I'm sure whatever that hit would break. Now, if you think this is a bird cage, you're correct. Known as a callbird trap. And we used this here until the 70s, and we were catching bullfinches. We were allowed to, I think we were licensed to. Any fruit grower could use these. A bullfinch, they love feeding on fruit buds, of soft fruit bushes, all sort of fruit buds. And they will strip every bud off a bush. So we were allowed to catch them. And it's known as a callbird trap simply because you've got two compartments. In the bottom one, you would have your callbird. And your little door here, the catch on it. The callbird sat in there, well fed, well watered, whistling away. This upper chamber is secured in a position with this little perch. The perch has a notch in it which keeps the door open. The callbird is in below. They're always singing, a lot of singing here. And when it attracts other bullfinches, and when they land, eventually they will go on that perch and the whole trap closes. All of these do seem very cruel to us these days, but it's an entirely different mindset then. See, if you could trap a man, shoot him, have a trap that would crush his leg. Animals had the same, everything was different then, different sets of values, and it's difficult for us to just imagine what it was like then.